Good evening and welcome to the Smyrna Town Council workshop to set our agenda for the May council meeting. Before we move into our items for discussion, we have a special guest here with us tonight. Seeger Houston is here and is going to do our pledge, and Rex is going to do our prayer. So Rex will do the prayer first and then we'll move into our pledge. So if you will stand with us, please.
Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for this community that we live in, and it's a safe place to live. And we thank you for the resources we have to provide services to the citizens. We thank you for the council that we have that's providing leadership and wisdom to making the decisions to take our town into the future. We just pray that you continue to bless everyone here and all those that are listening. Lord, we just love you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Seeger, if you'll just come right here by the table for us. Okay, right there's perfect. There you go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Seeger, I have
This is just frustrating.
a certificate for you. Oh, thank you. You are welcome. Thank you so much for coming to the pledge for us. Did you do a great job?
I'll have to wing
Thanks,
it.
Chief. Thank you all. Seeger and his family were here tonight because it is Autism Awareness Month. And for those of you who don't know, autism spectrum disorder is a complex developmental disability. Signs typically appear during early childhood and affect a person's ability to communicate and to interact with others. It affects individuals differently and at varying degrees. But the one thing that we found out is increased awareness and early diagnosis and intervention and access to appropriate services and support lead to significantly improved outcomes. So we just wanted to bring awareness to autism, and Seeger did a great job, and we got to talk a little bit before the meeting, and he has worked really hard in preparing to do the pledge for us tonight. So I really appreciate all the time and effort that he's put in, and hopefully we can bring a little bit of awareness to autism. Okay, we will move into our items for discussion. Our first is consideration of a resolution relative to a plan of services for property located on tax map 76, parcel 12.02. Kevin?
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is a request or a plan of services for the request for annexation and zoning. That's the next item on your agenda. This is for the property at the corner of Allenville Road and Independent Hill Road. This does put in writing all the services the town would be providing upon effective date of annexation, which would be everything except for water, as this property does lie within CUD service area. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this plan of services.
Questions for Kevin about this?
Is still any word yet about the other development that's was planning to go next door to it?
I haven't heard anything from them, no. But this is contingent on them bringing the sewer. I mean, it is, and the developer's aware of that, so.
Okay. Okay, item 2 goes along with this, which is consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation of property located on tax map 76, parcel 12.02, containing approximately 7.6 acres. It's requested by Sean Collins. The zoning would be R3. The property is also referenced by 6690 Amival Road, and it is a second reading. Kevin?
Yeah, this is the annexation request. Again, it is at the corner of Allenville Road, Independent Hill Road. It's directly adjacent to the property that was previously annexed and zoned R3. And those are all, both of those together are contiguous to the property that had been zoned and annexed and zoned PRD for Linwood. Land use plan would support a mix of office, retail, multifamily in this area, as it is getting closer to 840. Surrounding zoning is R3 in town, RM in Rutherford County. Again, it will be served by CUD for water. There is an existing single-family residence on this parcel as well. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this annexation and zoning request unanimously.
questions for Kevin? We've kind of talked about this a couple of times. All good? Okay. Then we'll move on to item 3, which is our housekeeping item of consideration of a resolution and memorandum of ordinance 18-12 relative to the annexation R3 zoning of property located on tax map 76, parcel 12.02. We'll put that on if the other items pass. Item 4 is consideration of a resolution relative to a plan of services for property located on tax map 54, parcels 55.00 and 56.01, and tax map 55, parcel 31.00. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is very similar to what you just looked at with the other request. This is a plan of services for these 3 parcels of land. Again, the town would be providing all services here except for water. They are contiguous to the city through the Amberton development, and they have already talked with our utilities department about it, and that's where they would be extending sewer through that area. So it would not be contingent on another sewer being extended by someone else. The Planning Commission did review this and has recommended approval.
Questions about this? Nope. Okay, then we'll move on to item 5, which is consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation of property located on tax map 54, parcels 55.00 and 56.01, and tax map 55, parcel 31.00, containing a total of approximately 30.3 acres that's requested by Sean Collins. The zoning would be R3. The property is also referenced by 7798, 7808, and 7840 Rocky Fork Amaville Road, and it is a second reading.
Yeah, these properties are contiguous to the city. Again, as I said, through the Amberton PRD. They are, land use plan would support medium-density residential development in this area. Surrounding zoning is PRD and town and RM in Rutherford County. Again, we would be providing all services except for water here. There is an existing single-family residence on each of these parcels. The Planning Commission did review this and has recommended the zoning or the annexation as well as the zoning of R3 to the council.
Okay. Item 6 will be put on the agenda. It is consideration of a resolution in memorandum of ordinance 18-13 relative to the annexation and R3 zoning of property located on tax map 54, parcels 55.00 and 56.01, and tax map 55, parcel 31.00. Item 7 is consideration of an ordinance relative to the adding language to the Town of Smyrna Municipal Code, Title 13, Property Maintenance Regulations, specifically adding a Chapter 5 pertaining to vehicles displayed for sale, rental, or distribution, and this is a second reading.
As you recall, at the last meeting, we deferred this to this upcoming meeting, and pursuant to our commitment, we met with 5 car lot owners, I think from 3 different lots, and there were 2 issues that they had regarding what our initial proposal was. One was the striping, and we concurred with what they were concerned about, and we're recommended that we take the striping as part of the ordinance away. And the second thing was the 8 by 18 parking spaces. We felt like, again, pursuant to Jeff and our staff and their agreement, that if we had a 3-foot barrier between cars, that would be ample space, and that would accommodate what we wanted. So we left there being really appreciative of the fact that these guys were appreciative of the fact that the council and the staff is trying to clean up Lowry Street. So we're going to recommend, and Jeff, I don't know if you want to expand on that or if you've already implemented that language into the ordinance, but we're going to recommend that you approve that with those changes.
So, Jeff, did we defer the
Yes.
last one? So will this be second reading, or will this be?
For intensive purposes, yes, we'll have another public hearing for it because we'll allow people to speak to this.
Okay.
But you will be able to approve it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Take effect immediately also.
Well, the way that it's
July
worded
1.
currently, it's July 1.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there a reason it has to be July 1 since we're not requiring them to paint? Is there anything that's required of them that would take 90 days to be put in place, or
No, I would maybe recommend maybe 30 days because it'll take codes a little while to make sure that everyone's knows that it's coming and can prepare. But that's an easy fix. If you'd like me to bring back to have it starting June 1st or however, I can do that.
What do you all think? I mean, they're not painting the lines.
Is there any paving requirements? that we were-
There may be some inventory that they
Oh, they have to move.
distribute.
You're right.
you know,
Also,
other-
it gives us a
somewhere
grace period
else,
for
so-
like Dennis to go
Yeah,
deal.
you're right. I hadn't thought about that.
My apologies, but Dennis could go lot to lot and go over the new ordinance with them. Personally, I prefer we just keep July 1 if everybody's good with that.
Okay.
And again, I've heard from several of them, and they were very appreciative, and I concur that thank you for getting that meeting together and working with them, because they are small business owners, and I know they really appreciated it.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions about that item? Then we will move on to item 8, which is consideration of an ordinance relative to the amendment of Chapter 7, temporary sign provisions, Section A, general requirement of the Town of Smyrna sign ordinance regarding banners, and this also is a second reading.
Mayor, I'll take that.
Good.
As you stated, this is a second reading. This is, we talked about it extensively at the last meeting. This is basically just adding a permitting process for the use of banners with a maximum use of 90 days, but in 30-day increments for the permits. Purpose of the permits is for basically so that the codes department can keep up with how long banners are being displayed, so that they know that this is not being displayed for 365 days a year. We did went back after the last council meeting because you had asked that we kind of be a little more specific that the fee would be owed at each period. So under II there, you'll see that we've specified that's $30 each time. If you have any other recommendations of that, we will take that, but that's the only major change that there has been since then.
Okay. Questions for Jeff or Steve on this? I think it's more than fair. I mean, I think it helps us and helps the business as well, so. Okay, we will move on to item 9. Approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a renewal contract with Galls Incorporated relative to the police department uniforms.
Yes, Mayor, this is just extension of our contract with Galls for the uniform allowance for the officers to get their clothing.
Okay, well, we don't need any naked officers, so we for sure want them to have their clothing. So I can't imagine we wouldn't approve this. Any questions for Todd? Okay. Item 10 is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a renewal contract with Motorola relative to a radio system maintenance for the town of Smyrna.
Yes, Mayor, this is the annual contract that we have for the maintenance agreement for our radios.
Okay. Questions for Todd on radios? No? Okay, we'll move on to item 11, which is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a performance agreement with Missy Garnett Music relative to music and sound for the 2018 Independence Day celebration. Mike?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. Council. It's hard to believe it's almost Independence Day time again, but it is. So we're recommending a performance agreement with Missy Garnett Music. She's played for us. Her and her band's played for us for several years here and there. Has a pretty good set list and a $1,500 price to provide sound and light on that night. So she's been well received at all the other events. We'd recommend her again.
Questions for Mike on the music? Okay, we'll move on to item 12, which is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract with Tennessee Department of Tourism Development relative to the grant for improvements to the Smyrna Train Depot.
Yes, ma'am. We worked with the Chamber of Commerce on this grant and our staff and put together an application to be sent into the Tennessee Department of Tourism. And basically one city out of Rutherford County does this, and we've elected the last couple of years to rotate that. So this year, staff and I put together an application along with the Chamber for the canopy to go on the south end of the train depot. It is a 50-50 grant, as you can see in your packet there, for $36,000 each for a total of $72,000. Would include a stage canopy, which will be well needed, just because for years, if it rains, we either have to get the stuff covered or put it back in the building. So that's going to help us out. And also, we usually have to put a tent there when it's hot for the stage. So this ought to work out good. Also includes stage lighting, sound, signage, and some additional concrete for seating.
Great. Questions for Mike? Nice job on getting a grant. You all know how much we enjoy getting those grants.
Sure.
So
Yeah, we had
nice
a lot
job.
of support.
Well, and as much as we're using Front Street now, and as much as the community's enjoying it, I think it will be well used.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 13, approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract with LexisNexis relative to the credit card merchant services. Hal?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Our current credit card vendor services contract expires June 30th. In February, we established a committee with representatives from each department that had used credit card services and credit card machines. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the members of the committee, Mike Strange, Kay Arnold, Diane Waldron, Mike Osborne, Brittany Stevens, right? Brittany Stevens. And then we had Robert Culp and Rex and Jeff Peach that assisted us and helped us create the RFP. And Beth Morris was the hero of the whole thing. She actually created the entire RFP. We went through several weeks of reviewing RFPs, put them out on April the 2nd. We opened the RFPs, and then we went into a scoring portion where 5 of us scored it. You'll see the score sheets that are attached to the documents in the packet. And LexisNexis had the highest score. They're a company out of Brentwood that we've actually done business with before. And we're recommending that the council approve the mayor to sign a contract with LexisNexis.
Questions for Hal? I want to thank all of you for all the work you've put in. I know that y'all have put in a lot of time and effort on this, and it's not gone unnoticed. So thank
This
you
will
very
result
much.
in some substantial savings across the board with all departments from our credit card fees.
Right. Okay, we will move on to item 14, which is discussion relative to a proposal from MEAC CenterPoint Energy for natural gas discount. Mike?
We're going to pull, okay, I'm sorry. We're going to pull that.
Okay. Then we will pull item 14 and move on to item 15, which is consideration of an ordinance adopting the budget for the fiscal year 2018-2019, first reading. Rex, it's your big night tonight.
It's showtime.
It's showtime.
The ordinance and detailed budget for the fiscal year 2018-19 are submitted for your consideration. I have attached a retreat to first read changes spreadsheet for your convenience. It details the budget changes that was presented at the retreat. And for those that are unaware, we've spent a day and a half at retreat extensively going into detail, looking at numbers and all of our different funds. So with that, I thought I'd present just a brief presentation on our funds. We'll start off with some budget highlights. In the general fund, the 19 budget is looking at a break-even point of $73,594 in the general fund. Water and sewer fund, we're asking for a 2% increase in water rates and 3% in the sewer rates. The average bill for a residential customer will increase by $1.03 per month. In the next 3 years, the water and sewer fund will increase its debt by an estimated $37 million to finance line extensions and the wastewater treatment plant expansion. Other highlights, capital projects are primarily infrastructure improvements. We'll be reviewing the budget on an ongoing basis, and we expect more changes. As a matter of fact, due to Mike's depot grant, we'll be changing the budget for that. So we expect many more changes before second reading. The budget will be posted to the town's website by Monday for viewing purposes. Financial challenges that are ahead for us. There's a lot of discussion about the upcoming changes in the grocery sector. There's a growing trend from brick and mortar to online sales. The Supreme Court ruling is concerning online sales and the taxing of those transactions. That started, and the decision should come sometime around late June. We have landfill issues concerning Rutherford County that's going to be coming down the pike. Mass transportation issues such as what Metro Nashville is voting on now. And I just want to take a moment just to thank the directors and the managers, Mr. Gill and the finance department for their work in preparation of the budget. I know this is a lot of information on one page. We're somewhat restricted as to what we can do because of the size of our screens. But like I said, all this information will be posted on the website so you can drill down and find anything that you have a hard time seeing tonight. We do this once a year, so I'll just kind of go over the format that several of these slides will be on. It starts off, the first column is a description. The two 15-16 and 16-17 actual, those are audited numbers. The 17-18 amended is our current budget. The 17-18 estimated is what finance estimates the budget be for the year. And then we get down to what we really want to look at and emphasize tonight, which is the 2019 recommended budget. We're looking at operating revenues of $44,114,507. We've got operating expenditures of a little over $36 million, which go into, we transfer some money to capital projects to pay for our projects going on around town. We transfer monies to the debt service fund to pay for our principal and interest on our debt. That's a little bit over $2.8 million. So that gives us total expenditures of $44,040,913. Subtract that from the revenue and we get a surplus of $73,594. That will give us an ending fund balance of $31,478,662. And as a percentage of ending fund balance over the operating revenue, that's 71.36%. Our financial policy gives us a range to be in of 30 to 35%, so we exceed that.
Rex, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
On the last slide, can you explain the 2017 to 18 amended versus the estimated on the transfer to capital projects, the difference in 5.8 million to 10.1 million?
Yes, for 17-18, that's what we talked about at the retreat, where we project a $4.2 million surplus. Instead of that going into the fund balance, we're transferring that to the capital projects, and you'll see that further back in some more slides.
Okay. I didn't know if you had time for that slide to show it or not. Okay.
Yes, it's a good question. We have well over 100 revenue accounts, but we have four major sources of general fund revenue that accounts for 71.3% of our income. Property taxes, we're estimating at $10,450,000. As you can see, the property taxes, local sales tax, and state sales tax are all trending upward. I attribute that to the town being an attractive place to live and to have a business. Hopefully those numbers will continue to keep growing up. General fund revenues, this gives us a percentage versus the last slide giving us a dollar amount. Property tax, 24%. Local sales tax, 31%. Other local revenue, 21%. state revenue at 11% and other revenues at 13%.
Rex, let me ask a question here. I don't know if you want to talk about it here or when you get through. It's up to you, whichever. But I mean, our state legislature is looking at transferring some of the local sales tax to the county away from the local municipalities. Which one of those pieces of the pie would that be, and how much of that piece of the pie would it be? I don't know if you've been able to study it enough to be able to answer the question, because I know it's just a proposed item on the state legislature right now, but, you know, it's one of those things that supposedly is dead for this year, but will come back next fall, most likely.
I don't remember exactly which revenue source that it hit, but I know that it hit the general fund, and it was a pretty significant figure. Do you remember anything, Jeff?
Yeah, there's actually several components. The first component was going to be just what they call the donor tax, which is kind of the Amazon issues where they're paying from without a storefront. But then an amendment was introduced that would actually affect the general state share revenue that we're receiving now, and could change the 75 to 25%, 75% in favor of the counties. So obviously we'll be paying attention to that closely in the beginning of next year. This was not brought up until the last 2 weeks of session this year. So it's very important for the cities, because I believe just within the donor, it was around $300 million that could be diverted from cities to the counties. And obviously, if you include the shared general sales tax, that could be even astronomical.
Even more. Mm-hmm. A lot more.
I mean, it could be tilting at windmills talking about this, but the bill almost died a couple of times and it kept coming back. So there's some driving force behind that, and you know, where we would make up the revenue would be a tough question to answer.
It would be a difficult decision to make.
Okay, thank you, sir.
This slide just shows the operating expenditures by the departments. And obviously, the police at 30% and fire at 25% makes up the bulk of our expenditures, as well it should, for public safety. We've got parks and golf at 10 and 4%, which is 14%, which is another area we emphasize. But those numbers are consistent with prior year percentages. General fund expenditures by type. We're a service industry, so there's no surprise that personnel costs, salaries, and benefits constitute the biggest number up there on our expenditures. I guess a number that I really like to see is the debt service is at 6%. So we've really done a good job of managing our debt. Health, welfare, and culture. Some people just call this nonprofits. It's the donations that we make to nonprofit organizations. We have 3 different types. We have an intergovernmental, a nonprofit community development, and nonprofit other. In the intergovernmental, we have the Rutherford County Department of Health, the Linebaugh Library, operating budget, which we've increased that by about 3% over what it was, and added the Linebaugh Library Capital Project, $12,000 to cover for aging HVAC system they have down there, rabies control, rehab center, the Rutherford County Emergency Management Agency. That's our portion of the director's salary. Nonprofit community development. These are ones that we contribute to each year. A lot of these are Rutherford County Chamber Economic Development, Zama, Sam Davis Memorial Association, and we added one just recently, this the Transit Alliance of Middle Tennessee. Nonprofit other, Smyrna Charity Assistance Fund. It increased from $17,500 to $35,000. This is a slide that, not a whole lot on it, but it tells a whole lot, it tells a big picture, a big story. If you look at the legend up at the top left-hand corner, there's revenues are green, expenditures are red, the fund balance is blue. You can see that the Great Recession started in 2007, but it impacted us all the way through 2012. You see the red is above the green line, which means we spent more than we took in. And since 2013, we've had a surplus each year. We're projecting pretty much a break-even scenario in 2018, but that's because we're transferring the $4.2 million to capital projects, and 19 is projected as a break-even situation. But I expect that we'll have a surplus out of that also due to vacant positions and delayed capital projects. Now, we have a whole lot of capital projects, but I picked out some that I thought that the citizens may be more interested in. For the fire department, we have 2 pumper trucks, land and design for a new fire station. Parks and Recreation, the Cedarstone Community Park, Washington and Lowry Park. Greenways should be really kicking in and moving this year, and a lot of improvements to the Rotary Soccer Park. Police Department, we're adding 8 patrol vehicles, SUVs. Administration, we're continuing on with the Lowry Street improvement. A big portion of that is from grant proceeds. The Street Department, Stonecrest at Sam Ridley, the ITS to improve traffic flow, weekly Swan intersection improvements, more Sam Ridley improvements, Enon Springs West extension, and Nolan Drive relocation project. This is the general fund capital projects by function, and really the story there is 81% of that is related to infrastructure. This starts the special revenue funds that we have with the town. They are funds established to ensure the tax dollars are spent on their intended purpose. For the State Street Aid, we have one major revenue source, and that's from the gas taxes, which is a component of state shared taxes. Street lighting and paving makes up over 91% of the operating budget. This year we increased paving by 20%. We've got a deficit of $212,000, but that's due to financing $215,000 of street capital projects, and at the end we have an ending fund balance of almost $750,000, so we're good there. Drug fund, really small fund for us. Operating income of $60,400 is what we're projecting, of which $36,000 we're going to transfer to capital projects to pay for a vehicle or 2. Going to have a surplus in there and still have an ending fund balance of almost $400,000. Impact fee fund. Everyone's kind of familiar with impact fees. These are fees on new development. It's restricted to public safety, parks, and roads. Expenses are transfers to the capital projects fund, where we purchase all of our capital projects. We're not going to use impact fees on roads this year. We're trying to build up the balance there. Stormwater fund, another special revenue. One major source of revenue, it's most residential properties are billed at $3.47 a month, and it was established by a congressional mandate. Tom's got a big project started this year from projects that were recommended from the master plan study. Going to spend $2.2 million. It's going to create a surplus of 1.6, almost 1.7, but it's still going to leave us an ending fund balance of $2 million. These are just expenditures by type. Obviously, the capital is a major part of that because of all the amount we've got budgeted for capital projects. Stormwater major capital projects. Each year have drainage repairs, the smaller projects. The master stormwater improvement project is probably going to be a 2-year project before it's completed. The takeaway by capital projects by function here is infrastructure is 99% in the stormwater fund. Insurance fund. This is an internal service fund. The purpose of this fund is to provide dental, vision, medical, property and casualty, and workers' compensation insurance for eligible personnel. Revenues comes from funds with employees. Expenses are payment of claims, premiums, and self-funded administration fees. Debt service fund, that's where we transfer the money into the debt service fund, and principal and interest are paid here. You see a deficit there, that's the of $80,000. That's a principal being paid on the airport property, and they're paying us for their principal and interest. But the beginning fund balance is the note receivable from the airport authority. So back when this project gets near completion, then the fund balance will go back to zero. Our debt and financing strategy for 19. We'll go to the bond market. We'll probably look at a 15-year term for these projects. As you can see, almost every one of these is either road or road-related projects of $5.3 million. This is just a picture projecting what our debt would be. The 19 is the purple column. Obviously, we have incurred much larger debt in the past, and we've worked it down the last several years. Nothing that I'm concerned about. Capital Projects Fund. Revenues are transfers from the General Fund, State Street Aid Fund, Drug Fund, Stormwater Fund, and Impact Fee Fund. Expenses are typically larger non-recurring projects that we incurred that we really don't want to put into the operating budgets. Debt proceeds and grants are deposited directly into this fund. We still anticipate having $1.2 million left in that at the end of the year. This is a slide that I really like. It shows the capital projects summary by departments, and it shows the funding source. I think the thing that the mayor and the council really like are the grant money that we get. A little bit over $4.5 million, which takes away from taxpayer funding issues. This just shows a picture of the percentages. Of course, impact fees of 5% and grant of 22% on the left side of the pie chart there. Those are non-taxpayer related revenues. Water and wastewater fund. This is an enterprise fund. User fees pays for all the expenses. It's accounted for like most private companies using accrual accounting. I guess one of the key things that we would look at here is the income before contributions and transfers of $5.2 million. And at the bottom of the slide there, there's key indicators that the comptroller's office looks at as they review the financials each year. Change in net position and net increase in cash. If you have 2 years of consecutively negative numbers, then the comptroller will invite you down to speak with them to figure out a plan to turn your financial situation around. That is not something that we have to worry about. The Water and Wastewater Fund is a fund where we need to keep a large amount of cash reserves on hand. We're going to use that reserve to pay for future capital projects, which keeps our rates lower. The state revolving fund loans, we spend the money first and then we get reimbursed. So that impacts our cash flow. And 3, unexpected emergency projects, such as the one we had at sewer break that we had at Sam Ridley down there. We're able to pay for those with cash and start the project immediately. Major sources of water and wastewater revenue. Of course, we're, like I said before, we're a growing, vibrant community. You're going to see our water sales and our wastewater fees continue to trend upward. I guess one of the things that I see on there is water tap fees are small in comparison to wastewater tap fees. That just tells the story that we're going into service areas that CUD provides the water. And the financing sources, that's debt proceeds that will be coming in. Expenditures by type. The number that jumped out at me is the debt service is 12%, which is really good. But if you compare that to the general obligation debt, which is 6%. So we're a great place as far as our debt goes. However, we, in the water and sewer fund, like I said, we're fixing to over the next 3 years, incur an estimated $37 million in debt. The good thing about the debt is we anticipate getting it from the state revolving fund loan, which is a low interest rate program that the state has. I think it's somewhere a little bit less than 1.5% is what we anticipate paying for interest. And there's the projects that will be funding, that will be borrowing next year. This debt forecast, if you look at 2019 and 2020, that just goes to show you, that's a picture that shows where our debt will increase over the next 3 years, although this just shows a 2-year picture. Major capital projects, Jefferson Pike, sewer expansion, plant expansion, Enid Springs West road water extension, inflow and infiltration inspection, Olive Branch design and construction, and a water plant to Jefferson Pike relocation. We've talked about Jefferson Pike for years now, and hopefully it'll get funded, but we're going to keep it in there and hope for the best, hope for a miracle maybe. Capital projects by function, 96% of that is infrastructure. Natural gas fund, another enterprise fund, user fees pay all the expenses. 2016 and 17 were mild winters. We're estimating 18 to be a moderate winter, and we're budgeting 19 to be a mild winter. When you have a mild winter, you're typically looking at a break-even situation where we'll make a little bit of money. The key indicators down there are the same as for the water and sewer fund that the comptroller looks at. The net increase in cash is a deficit, and that's just related to paying the Jefferson Pike line extension in cash instead of going to the bond market. And there is currently no debt in this fund. Major sources of revenue, residential, commercial. The only customer we have in industrial is Nissan. We get some money from tap fees. This fund is in good shape.
Is there new building, is there new distribution center included in that? Is the new distribution center included in that? No.
No.
Is it metered separately?
Oh, the Nissan distribution, yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Of course, the natural gas for resale is a major expenditure in there. Major capital projects, Jefferson Pike, Enid Springs West, and gas line construction into new subdivisions. Natural gas capital projects by function. Infrastructure is at 90% in the gas fund. General fund capital improvements plan highlights. This is a plan that establishes a list of capital improvements which are proposed, not budgeted, over the next 4 fiscal years. This plan includes a brief project description, cost estimates, and a method of financing. Streets, parks, and fire departments projects make up 88% of all the requests. The majority of the street department projects are related to Sam Ridley road improvements. Majority of the parks department projects are related to Cedarstone Park and the Greenway. And the majority of the fire department projects are for a new fire station and firefighting vehicles. Stormwater, we're going to continue on with the trying to complete the master plan drainage improvements over the next 4 years. Water and sewer, Jefferson Pike water and sewer line extension, wastewater plant expansion, Olive Branch sewer extension, Enid Springs Road West water extension, and Meadowbrook sewer line improvements are the largest projects. Natural gas, Jefferson Pike and Enid Springs West line extension and residential line extensions are the largest project. That concludes my presentation.
Rex, you always do a great job of putting it together and putting it in a way that we all can understand. I know it's very complex and takes you all quite a while to put together, but we really appreciate all the hard work that all of you put into forming the budget. Based on the summary of changes that were in our packet, these were some of the things that we talked about at the retreat that have been, the changes that have been made. Sounds like there might even be some more changes that will also be made are some of the ones talking about like Mike's thing, and that will be made after it passes between first and second reading, I'm assuming.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Council, any questions, anything after retreat that you've kind of looked at once we got the budget that you want to have discussion about?
Yeah, I'd like to circle back to staffing and in particular the engineer that Tom was looking at. I went back and looked at it. And again, I was looking at, the staffing on public service. It looks like 5 out of the 11 requests were for public safety, which we get. And Mike, I was looking at some of your areas and it seemed to be in line. But Tom, when I was looking at yours, I kind of looked at the presentation, and you guys are hitting all your deliverables. I was looking at the performance measures, and under efficiency, under phone calls, respond requests, you guys are at 98%. Citizen and internal department, you're at 100%. Service quality, you're at 100%. So then I went back and looked at, any potential overtime that we were incurring there, and the overtime's very low and very flat. And because of that, it's something that I would like to hold and not do this year, and then continually assess it with you during the year, and circle back to it next year to see where we're at.
HG, Lori?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably go along with that recommendation.
Well, it's a significant salary in that 70,000 plus benefits, so that we're probably closely at or near $100,000 right there. So it's just something that, again, I was looking for markers to say this is needed or it's not needed, and I'm just not seeing them. And again, I think it's something that I would like to hold for this budget year and then reassess with you during the year, and so that when we come out next budget, if we're seeing some indicators that say we need to head in that direction, then have the discussion then.
Anyone else want to chime in? Do you want to can you get that taken out prior to first reading?
I'm here to fulfill the council's wishes. I can take it out and adjust it.
Okay.
It might be easier to do it on the second read as far as following the changes, because I'd have to go up and redo the changes again for the first read, if that's okay with the council.
You good with between first and second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lori? Okay.
Just another little follow-up, the Rock Springs corridor study, which I think we desperately need.
Which I think we're going to talk about under other.
Yeah, that's not included as part of the budget as of yet, correct?
We just actually got the estimated cost yesterday, I believe, so it's not in there. I don't think we put anything in there, have we, Rex?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Well, the study would be in this year's budget, wouldn't it, if we pass it next month?
It'd be partly funded under this year, and the rest of they're anticipating to be completed, I think, end of October.
Yeah.
So it would cover 2 fiscal years.
Okay, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. So, anything else for budget before we move on to item 16?
Well, and I know that it doesn't look like there were much changes on the judicial side of it, but one thing that, it was in the news recently with privatized probation companies, and it's been brought up again now in Giles County. And I was under the understanding that the probation company, which is private that we use now too, that they collect our fines, but I'm not so sure that it's not just their cost that they're collecting for now. And that's pretty alarming to me.
I mean, you're correct. Currently that's what it is. The format is what they're doing, is probation collects only their fees, and the town clerk's office collects only their fees.
Because, I mean, that's why Rutherford County had to settle a lawsuit here recently, was the exact same thing, and that's what Giles County is being up for now.
Suggestion? Or what you, I mean, is there something, I mean, you've kind of thought about it, anything? that
Well,
you
I
wanna-
mean, I think one thing, we really need to look at the contract.
Well, they had adjusted the contract. They met with several staff when they first came on. So they've, any acquiescing on both sides where they changed it. It's been in that operation, I guess, I don't know, 3 years now, 2 years, 2 years, something like that. And that's how the staff at the time decided that they wanted to work in. But now, without delving too far into the litigation that the county had with PCC and the others,
Right.
a lot of that was circling more around violating people because of they hadn't paid their fines or in fines only, because a lot of cases that will not allow us to, or a judge cannot put someone in jail just for fines only. But it was in the manner in which they were doing it and those types of things, I think, is what really led to that. Obviously, it's something we always have to be careful of watching to ensure that everyone is doing as they're supposed to, and there's always I suppose, a little bit of a risk when it's outside of the city. But as far as the concerns of the pressuring for money that they were having with PCC, I've not seen that in this instance.
I'm not familiar with Giles County, but could you look at what has happened there and just make sure you have no concerns about the way
Absolutely.
things are taking place here?
Would
that be good?
That would be really good, because again, it's kind of my understanding that we are collecting for the fines that are issued on people, but the probation company that we are using, they are strictly collecting their own fees, and that's it.
Correct. That's how. Well, that's how it used to. Probation collected all of the fees,
All of the fees.
and then they split it at some point a couple of years ago. They split it. They're doing just the fees that they collect, and the clerks are collecting the fees that just the city's supposed to collect. So that's the arrangement that they have at this time.
If you will look into that, and then if you'll just shoot us an email and let us know kind of what you found out, that'd be
will do.
great. Does that work? Okay. Let me see where we are. Okay, so anything else under budget that we want to discuss? Are you all good with moving on? And then any changes after we pass on first reading, then we'll do any changes that need to be made between first and second reading, if you all are okay with that.
And
Okay.
again, the capital project, I didn't really see the slide.
Oh, the change.
Yeah, the change in the capital project.
Oh, the 4.2?
Yes, sir.
If you'll see the estimated,
Oh, yeah.
that surplus is being transferred over from the general fund, which is going to up the fund balance, and we'll be taking it back out for the Cedar Stone Park in 19.
Okay, so it's for the Cedar Stone Park.
Yes, we're talking 18 and 19.
Okay. Okay.
Instead of going into fund balance, we're just transferring it over to capital projects. It's kind of a prepayment on some projects that we know we're going to do.
Okay.
Okay, we will move on to item 16, which is consideration of an ordinance adopting the property tax rate for the fiscal year 2018-2019. This is something we have to do each year. And Rex, I'm assuming we've not gotten the number yet to make it revenue neutral?
No. Hopefully, Mr. Mitchell's office was hoping to get it to us this week, but it'll probably be next week.
But you do feel like we'll have it prior to,
I hope
First reading?
we do. If
Okay.
not, I think at first reading, we would be recommending to adopt the certified tax rate.
okay. Okay. But just to let citizens know, we are not planning on doing a tax increase. I know that we've heard lots about that with the tax appraisals, and just so citizens know, the town of Smyrna is not the ones who do the tax appraisals. And so, but what our plan is, as of right now, is to set the tax rate so that the tax rate is revenue neutral, which means you should be paying for your city portion about what you paid last year.
I think if people remember, we went through this 4 years ago, and we lowered it a couple of cents to keep it revenue neutral. So
Right.
it's not a new concept. We've gone through this before. The sticker shock from the letter that went out, I think, is what's got people's hair on fire.
I agree. Okay. So we might or might not have the new tax rate. Hopefully we will by first reading. Item 17 is appointment of one member to the Stormwater Advisory Committee to serve a 2-year term ending in 2020. And I'll be honest, I did not check to see if we've had any applications. Do we know?
I'm not aware of
Okay, so if there's someone out there who wants to serve on the Stormwater Committee, we recommend that you put in an application. You can go on our town website to do that. It will be a 2-year term that will end in 2020. Item 18 is discussion on the hiring process of the town manager. Jeff, do you want to give a little overview?
Sure, I'll be glad to do that. Over the last month or so, we've been collecting applications and resumes from candidates. We had over 90 candidates apply for the position. Council has been reviewing those over the last few weeks and submitted several names to me to try to get a list together, sort of a finalist list, and that was emailed out to council last week. Really, at this point, just need to find out from council how many people you'd like to interview so that we can kind of start getting those things scheduled and so that I can go ahead and move forward with checking references. And that's kind of where we're at in the process right now.
So based on everybody sending in their top 3 to 5,
Correct.
ever how many they had, we had 11 individuals that got a minimum of 1 vote.
That is correct.
And some got all the way up to 7. So now we just need to decide, what do we want to whittle that down to for the first round of interviews and possibly the only round of interviews. I think we'll make that decision after the first round. Do we need to see somebody again or not? In the past, the last time we did this, we just did 1 round. So, HG, well, how many would you like?
My impression is after you, go through the process and you're interviewing these people, after you get past 3, they start to run together. And and I think 3 would be an effective number for us to interview.
Tim?
Based on the last time, did we do 5 or did we do more?
I believe we did 5.
Yeah, and the thing that I found was the folks that we had ranked in the top 3 were still the top 3 after we got through the first round, and I just think from an efficiency standpoint and based on prior, the way it worked prior, I think our top 3's fairly defined here, and that's what I would recommend.
Lori?
So let me ask, because I wasn't here when we did this prior. I've been
Okay,
on
I'm sorry, I
presidential.
forget.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I've been on presidential search committees before, for instance, for Montlow, but I wasn't here. So tell me about the process. Are we the majority? Of course, all but 1, I believe, are out of state. Not
Right.
only some are kind of fairly close.
Right.
Do we pay expenses? How is that handled?
We did not pay expenses.
Okay.
We gave them the opportunity, if they chose to come in, they could, or we had, I think, 2 last time that we Skyped in.
Skyped.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And we worked last time Jeff and I worked on a set of questions, and then we sent them out to council to see were these okay, kind of based on the goals and objectives that we've set for the town manager position that we worked on at retreat. And so then if y'all want to add questions, we can do that and have those ready. And then we will ask those same questions of ever how many we choose to interview, and go through that process, preferably in one day if we can get it done in one day. If you'd rather split it up on multiple days, we can do that. But I think sometimes with our schedules, if we just plan a day and do a day, and then we have listened to all of the candidates and then made a selection, had a discussion about who we think best meets the needs.
Okay. Okay.
Is there a way you'd rather do it different? In regards to the process?
No, not in regards to the process,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
I would probably, personally, I would go with the top 5 instead of 3. That's just
Okay.
me personally.
Okay. Are you all good with 5 as well as 3? Or do you want to have discussion on it?
Well, I mean, I see Lori's point. I do really. And again, mine's just coming from the prior experience, and maybe that's, I don't want to say the word jaded, but it's kind of influenced me that, you know, you've got 3 people that clearly, and especially 2 people that have set themselves kind of apart just from our rankings. And then you've got 1, and then you've got 2 folks tied. So my preference is 3, but I'll acquiesce to what the council would prefer.
Are you willing to give it 3? Or are you willing to give it 5?
You know, what's funny about this is that, I mean, I believe that we can get what we need out of the 3, but I look at 4 and 5, and they were 2 that I chose, so, I mean, I'll go with the will of the council also. I mean, really.
Look,
It's just, it makes for a long, drawn-out process. It's a beating. It really is a beating.
You want 5?
I would prefer 5.
That's fine.
Okay, then we'll do 5. Okay, we will do the top 5, and those top 5 are Anthony Griffin, Brian Hercules, Jeff Clausen, Glenn Irby, and Michael Young. And Jeff, timeline-wise, let me pull up the calendar. What are you looking at? What do you think would, obviously you're going to have to get in touch with these individuals to try to schedule something. Are you thinking the week of the 7th or the week of the 14th of May?
I think either one of those is fine. I know we've got some council members out the first week of May, so we can't probably get it in that quickly. But I think the second week of May is probably fine.
Anybody else up here out?
Not the
Do you
second
know
week.
of? Third week, I mean, the second week, meaning 7th or 14th? Second full week or?
Double check.
Are we in agreement we want to try to do it all in one day and,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Like starting at 8 in the morning one morning and, okay. Then, why don't you check with the other council members that are not here? And let's see if, we can kind of pinpoint a day that works for everybody, but also works for the candidates. And, why don't we try to get a couple days from council members? That way, we can see what's going to work for the candidates.
We're glad to do it.
Okay? And then, in the meantime, why don't we try to work on some questions based on goals
Got
and
some draft
objectives?
questions, and I'll be glad to send that out to you guys, and you can edit them.
That's what I
add
was
some
going to
additional
say.
ones.
Let's, because we want to make sure that we're asking each candidate the same questions. I think that's really important.
Very.
And, anything else in regards to the process? Okay, then we will move forward with those 5 individuals. Okay, that takes care of item 18. We do have a couple things under other. Who's got other tonight?
We'll start with me.
Okay, we'll start with you.
Okay. The first one is the annual mechanical maintenance contract for renewal with the water and wastewater plant. IM&E has agreed to hold their price again for, this would be the last time we can renew without going out to bid. So we're asking that we approve the renewal.
Okay. Questions for Mike on this? Okay. Will you send us that, since you've got it, will you?
Yes.
Okay.
And I
that'd be great.
apologize. I thought it had been sent to Miss Diane, but it had not.
Well, okay.
The next one is chemical contract renewals for the water and wastewater plant. I hope you don't want me to read all these, but
You make me.
but you do much better than I do. So they have also agreed to hold their prices the same. This is a varied group. Some of them were in their second renewal, some of them in their third, so we would recommend that also.
Okay.
And I'll send you that.
Thank you.
And the final one, we had to do a bid for some of the chemicals that the vendors would not hold. So there's a list here of these 6 vendors that we are recommending for the water treatment plant for chemicals. And
Okay.
I'll send you all 3 of those. I apologize, and all the bid stuff.
Okay. Questions for Mike on any of this? Okay. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The other day, a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Gill and I had talked about getting Gresham Smith to put together a scope and fee for the Rock Springs corridor study. They submitted that yesterday with a fee associated with it, $43,400. That'll be looking at the Rock Springs Road from the county, from the terminus on the west side at the county line, all the way to Old Nashville Highway, looking at 23 different intersections along that route, 5.25 miles. The same type of thing we did with Sam Ridley corridor, or the Sam Ridley corridor study, helped give us a basis of what we need to do. It kind of projects out 15, 20 years in the future what Rock Springs Road will look like if we do nothing, and it gives us some options on what we can do to improve the flow of traffic along that road.
Let me say this in connection with that. Kevin Reesby will be working with them to identify future subdivisions and deal with the growth that ultimately will impact that corridor.
Okay.
I think it's one thing important to note too is that TDOT did say that in order for another interchange to come, there has to be, that
Connectivity.
the connectivity of the road, and so that's really important.
Right.
Great. I think this is a must. I mean, I think this is an area we're consistently hearing, and we're seeing so much growth on the west side of town, so I think this is money well spent. Questions for Tom? Rex? Sounds like you're going to have another
One of the
one.
things we've talked about is also, and I spoke with Mr. Gill about it not too awful long ago, and the mayor too, about putting together a meeting with the people from Nolensville and the rest of Williamson County, and looking at the entire area over there, bringing in our county people, also the Murfreesboro people, and doing a blanket study over the whole area out there, which, we don't need to put too far off down the road because it is developing so fast, and we need to be sure that it's develops in a manner in which we want it to. So,
Yeah.
and I guess a lot of that will still come out with the comprehensive plan also. So,
I think Mayor Anderson out of Williamson County would be very open to that. See him on a monthly, Kevin's not here, I was going to ask.
yeah, I kept looking for him.
I know, did he leave? Because he was right there, wasn't he?
He had his son was in a very important school event, and he asked to leave at 6.
But I'm happy to talk to Mayor Anderson and get that moving forward. I think it's a great idea.
Well, would we expand it and Tom, you can help me here, Amable Road, you know, we were seeing that really blow up into a growth corridor. I realize it's a state highway, but would that be something that TDOT would potentially look at and fund, as far as looking at that? And would that be part of our discussion with Williamson County, not only Nolensville?
With Amityville Road, that's something we could handle either as we handled Sam Ridley and do a corridor study along it and and then approach TDOT as far as splitting costs, or we could see about doing a corridor study of it, then giving it to TDOT and asking them to make those improvements. But again, that's something that if TDOT's going to take a lead on the project, those projects are going to typically take significantly longer than if we led them and brought money to the table.
Will that tie into the Divergent Diamond interchange that TDOT's talked to us about at Amarillo? Or do you think
they've completed a full analysis of that, and it's really a matter of them acquiring the money they need to do the Diverging Diamond, getting that approved, and then ultimately going to FHWA with their recommendation. That was kind of out of our hands for the Diverging Diamond.
And how much of that road is owned by the Rutherford County?
How much of what, Amable Road?
Amable Road.
But it goes to
I mean, I
the
think
subdivision
there's-
now.
Yeah.
I thought it was all state.
All state.
It's all
Yeah.
state.
Yeah,
isn't it?
well, yeah, it's
Oh,
all
okay.
state. We own,
Okay.
Yeah.
we take,
Yeah.
But I
you know,
mean,
one
would
thing-
the county, be willing to come in? I don't know if they,
And help.
and help with the funding.
always ask.
Right? Depends on if they get
Well, we've
more
got,
money.
and we've said this multiple times, and I don't say it with the intention of offending our legislators, but unless they get behind these kind of projects, they're not gonna get done,
Well, I've heard from more than one source that one of the things that when the state and the federal people are looking at the interchanges and things like that, what they look at is how much of a master plan there is going from there all the way out to wherever the next spot would be. Such as Middle Tennessee Boulevard, having a plan to go all the way to the college and the other way also. But, another thing to take into account is, there's been two big instances of where planning kind of fell down over the years, and one being where Joe B. Jackson ends. There's a subdivision right there at the end of it. So there's no way to, take that corridor on through. But then, of course, the big one is originally Sam Ridley Parkway going to Williamson County. And of course, now there's a subdivision that blocks that also. And we just don't want to see that happen again. Being out ahead of it and knowing where the major corridors need to flow to. So.
Anything else? Okay, I guess that's everything under other, so we're ready for director updates.
So the HR department's been obviously busy with the town manager recruiting as well as our executive chef recruiting. Also, just an announcement of our upcoming United Way Golf Scramble, which is Friday, May 11th. So right now we've got over 30 sponsors for that event, which is a tremendous outpouring of generosity from just people in the community. So looking forward to a great day that day. Hopefully, council will get a team playing again this year. We'll see. You've been practicing.
We've been practicing. We're going to win this year.
So we're excited. Good. Well, we're glad to see you out there that day. And so that's coming up. Also, just busy with seasonal hires for the Parks Department and the Golf Department. So,
Hal, you don't have to put us at the end this year. We don't have to be the last team.
I think you need to put 2 holes between you and the group in front of you.
You might need to do that.
I'll say what Rex had to say. I'm operating at the pleasure of the council.
We may not win, but we have the best time.
That's right. We need
That's
an
right.
award for that.
You do. And the team that looks the part. We always look the part. Okay. Thanks for all y'all are doing on that.
As far as practicing, we doesn't count.
Oh, we doesn't count.
Who's on your team this year?
We're not sure yet. I think it's going to be Mark Adkins and HG, myself, and We're trying to decide what ringer we're gonna bring in. We don't know yet. So if anybody out there wants to be our number 4, we have a good time.
Tiger Woods is gonna play with us.
Tiger Woods is playing with us? Great.
His back's feeling good that day.
Good. Steve?
Good evening. Well, I guess the biggest news in our department is we've added, with the help of the IT department, we've added a message board just outside our window, which is really helpful, I think, to our customers, as well as able for us to display maps when people come to our office and want to see, a particular area, maybe their yard or whatever. We can pull it up on a big screen right outside the window. It's going to be very helpful, I think, for them. So it's just a nice feature that we've been able to add in the last few weeks. Patty and Robert were very helpful in getting this done.
Great. Questions for Steve? Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Robert?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In addition to some of the things that have just been mentioned, been working on various projects with other departments, mostly internal items such as continuation of the utility billing software upgrade and things of that nature. One of the things that we're looking at is doing some internal training for employees, looking at ramping that up for some of the computer safety and items and whatnot, some of the issues that have been going around lately. Of course, we've got the Election Commission is downstairs in the room that we have for training, and so that's kind of a multi-purpose room, and that's been working out real well. We've got a new employee that has been in for about about a month or so, and he is fitting in real nicely and has been making the rounds, and I think most everyone has probably met David Fielder already. But that's about it.
Great. Thanks. Mike?
Yes, ma'am. Just a couple of things. Tuesday night, we were the Outdoor Center was awarded the new Firefly Award from Simon, the locally owned Murfreesboro, which is co-sponsored for the event. So, on behalf of our staff, we just appreciate the support we get from Mr. Gill and the town council, and also the people that voted. So it was a good night, and we're really proud of that. Staff was really proud of that. And I'll let you kind of hit on the Coos Memorial if you'd like to. I did want to let people know that Jefferson Springs Greenway construction has started. It started at Jefferson Springs Rec Area and it's coming back towards Sharp Springs Natural Area. There will be some disc golf closures. Part of that course will close down while they put utilities in there, so just be aware of that. We've put signage out there and talked with the disc golf board as well, so just more to come on that. And also, just some numbers for you. Our outdoor center, our party rooms have really picked up. It seems the word's out. But we had 41 slots in April booked. So a lot of those are double bookings and things like that. But just like the buildings that we rent, the people are looking for space indoors. So it's been good. Summer camps for the Outdoor Center have 48 pre-registered campers this year. So we'll do like 6 different camps, 1-week camps. So we're excited about that. That is it.
Great. Thanks,
Hey,
Mike.
what kind of traffic are we getting at the Bark Park?
It's pretty good traffic. I was out there Saturday. We had a little event out there Saturday afternoon, and it was pretty much packed. I parked in the grass, if that tells you anything.
Okay, good.
And you can tell by the grass it's inside. It's getting worn out. But it's been a big hit, and we hope to do a third area where that way we can take one out of service and renovate it. And give them, try to keep them good grass. But I don't think I've never seen a dog park hold up. But it does tell me that it's something that was needed. It's a good question.
You just need artificial turf out there, don't you?
And someone to clean it.
I was going to say, he can clean up.
Yeah. I'm thinking concrete myself, Yes, but a lot of them do put artificial turf out there. They have synthetic turf for dog parks. They sure do.
Spray it.
They sure do.
Which my youngest daughter, she frequents the park and several around Nashville and all around. She suggested we put some type of pavilion more in the middle so that people don't gather up by the gates, because she thinks maybe that's what's wearing a lot of the grass
Could be.
down to dirt. I
Yes,
said, I don't
ma'am.
know, I'll mention it.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
Rex, anything?
March local sales tax collected, $998,769. That's year-to-date under budget of $187,080. March state shared tax collected, $436,066. Year-to-date under budget of $15,403. We're tracking really close to budget.
Questions for Rex? Thanks, Rex. Mike?
Yes, ma'am. Wanted to announce we have won an award in the natural gas department, the American Public Gas Association System Operational Achievement Recognition Award. It's for excellence in operating at your natural gas utility. We demonstrated excellence in 4 areas, which were system integrity, system improvement, employee safety, and workforce development. We were one of 18 American Public Gas members out of 750 that won this award. So big deal for the personnel and stuff. They did a great job and proud of them.
Great. Always like to be recognized, so nice job. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor Council. You might be seeing some work going on around town as well as along Weekly Swan. We issued go-to-work letters for Middle Tennessee Electric and United Communications. Started moving some poles and some wires in preparation for the Weekly Swan intersection improvement project and ITS phases 1 and 2. There's no utilities that need to be moved for the Stonecrest Sam Ridley project, so I checked with Taylor Lee just a couple of days ago, and he's still awaiting FHWA approval for Stonecrest Sam Ridley. So hopefully that'll be here. That notice to proceed to construction phase will be here in the next week to 2 weeks, and we'll be able to get a contractor on board to start that project. So I've been in contact with Gresham Smith. They are one of the firms who have been awarded for state of Tennessee, have been awarded the contract to do the self-evaluation and transition plans for the state of Tennessee. They've got a couple of people in there who could come in and give a presentation to council and planning commission. So however you guys want to work that out, if you want to do it as a combination, open town hall type or town meeting type forum, just let me know how you'd like that to go, and I can contact them about some dates or some potential dates to have them come in.
Right. Update on paving of Sam Ridley timeline or anything?
Well, they're still actively milling, researching that. I believe they plan on, depending on the weather, to start repaving in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So it will still be like this for a few more weeks. Also, they have some other things to repair with it as they mill through. They also cut some of the detection loop wires, so they have to go back and replace those and repair those, so, and ultimately restriping it and putting the reflective markers down.
Great. Questions for Tom? Hal?
Yes, ma'am. We are having our outing season kicks off tomorrow with our first outing. It's the Police Athletic League here in North Rutherford County. They're having their first outing tomorrow, and they are still taking sign-ups. So anybody in the public that wanted to play, they could come out tomorrow. It's a 1 o'clock shotgun. We also, on Monday, we start our First Tee After School program that runs the month of May. It's on Mondays and Wednesday evenings from 4:30 to 6. The online sign-up has been closed now, but you can. It's not too late. You can still sign up by calling the golf shop.
Great.
And that's it.
Questions for Hal? Thanks. Chief, how are you?
Wait a minute. Hal, what's foot golf numbers like?
It's planed off. I can't. Of course, the rain and everything. It's out of the ordinary. We were running 50 to 75 a week.
Mm-hmm.
I did get an email actually this morning, yesterday evening, but I followed up this morning. A corporation out of DCI, I think it was called. They're wanting to do a corporate get together with 30 of their employees, and they're going to play foot golf.
Very good.
And so they're coming out. So it picks up where it really picks up is spring break, fall break.
Mm-hmm.
Kids come down. I get some of the colleges, and then in the summers.
Do you get much interaction with Stones River football?
No, and I've talked to Bill about how to tap that. I've trapped their email address before, sent emails out. We've handed out little plaque flyers, cards when Mike would have his soccer events over at Soccer Way, and
I think it's still relatively new. People don't know, but it's 200 to 300, maybe 500 rounds a month.
That's not too
When the
awful
weather's
bad,
nice.
is it?
No.
We're going to do a council foot golf outing, y'all.
Hey, we could take y'all's foot golf score and use it in the United Way scramble.
I'm open.
I don't think they could finish 9 holes.
Chief?
We give them a card.
Mayor, council, I just want to thank everybody that came out last Saturday for our family preparedness expo. The weather, it rained on us, but we still had a real good turnout. Probably had 700-800 people. We got about 50 people through CPR, first aid training. So it was a very successful day to me, and I appreciate everybody.
Danielle was great to come out from News 2.
Right, and along with the drills on Friday, they went real well, and I appreciate everyone joining us for those.
Questions for Chief? Thanks, Chief. Todd? What's going on in the police department?
Thank you. We have, currently we have 7 applicants that are going through the background process for police officer. We have 1 applicant going through the records clerk's process, a good group of young men and young women that we hope to bring into the police force. One program that we're very excited about that's just had overwhelming success is our drug drop program, where people can bring their unused medications. In the past, we've had the drug drop box would be inside a secured area. You'd call an officer to come out. Well, now we've moved that out to our front lobby, and we're able to monitor that. So during the regular working hours, 8 to 4:30, people can drop off their medications without notifying a police officer. And then, of course, after hours, an officer can still come in and help them drop all their medication and stuff. Very great program, and it's been very well received by the community.
Great. Questions for Todd? Thanks, Todd. Miss Diane's not here with us, and I was going to talk a little bit about that. The reason Miss Diane's not here is her son, Kenny, passed away. And we cannot tell her and her family how sorry we are and that they're in our thoughts and prayers. And visitation is tonight for Kenny from 4 to 8 at Woodfins, and the funeral is tomorrow. I know she would appreciate you keeping them all in your thoughts and prayers. So that's why Miss Diane's not here tonight. Mr. Gill?
I'm going to follow up on your thanks to Hal by saying thank you, you and Beth Morris, your committee. You guys did a great job. Appreciate that. Also, street guys doing a good job keeping on top of cutting the medians and the weeds and all those things. But I remind the public it's rainy season. That stuff grows fast, and we'll stay on it as best we can. So be patient with us. Also, congratulations to Rick Powell, who's retired at Smyrna High School as principal. He's been in education 44 years. I didn't realize he'd been in it that long. Thanks, Rick, for all your work on the budget. And also, I appreciate knowing the 2018 weather forecast as well. So I'll be ready this winter. Also, we continue with you never cease to amaze me, Rick. The lobby renovation continues. This place is going to look much different here before you know it. And thanks to Bill for taking the Prepare-a-thon and running with it. We started that 3 or 4 years ago, a bunch in Smyrna, Georgia. And, it sort of was a 1-year deal, but Bill has, parlayed it into 3 or 4 years to benefit the citizens. So good job, Bill. That's it.
Jeff?
Yes, I've got about 30 minutes worth of, I'm just kidding.
See what, we'll adjourn the meeting and let you stay.
Come back later. We were able to file the delinquent tax suit that we file every year. We've got that done. Attended the International Municipal Lawyers Association Conference in Washington, D.C. A lot of good information from that. I believe I corresponded with you from there. We've received the comments back on the recodification from American Legal, so probably be setting up a workshop with council on that. Although, like I said, I've been very pleased with the product on that.
Great. HG?
Well, I thought he was still going on. I'm sorry. My condolences also to Diane and Papa Tom and the the family. Kenny was a fine young man. If anybody ever knew him, he always had a smile, and he was always just happy as he could be. Great little fella. Also, the Simply Smyrna is coming up June the 2nd, and if people are interested in having booths there, you need to contact Cafe Carpe Artista and sign up for a booth there. Other than that, thanks to the staff, they always do a good job, and I know everybody had to work together on the budget and pull it together, and looks like a good one for another year. Y'all are appreciated, along with all of the town employees, actually. Thank you.
Tim.
Yes, certainly prayers to Diane and her family. It's it's always a big loss when it strikes home to what I consider our family here. Chief, again, great job. Please pass it on to your men. I mean, they shine in those instances. The work with the community and the kids and whatnot goes a long way. Same for our law enforcement that was there as well. And I couldn't tell you how much I appreciate you doing that, because I firmly believe that as a result of that, we save lives every year. So thank you very much.
Lori?
We do. We had the 50 that were certified in the CPR, and that means there's 50 more people out in our community that can save lives. That's awesome. But condolences to Miss Diane Waldron and the family for the loss of their son. And so Shannon Williams, who teaches drama out at Smyrna High School, of course, both of my daughters both had Shannon for a couple of years, and she's going through some medical issues right now, and they have these bracelets for sale for $5, Shannon Strong. And you can get those at Smyrna High School. We'll help them with some medical expenses that they're getting ready to go through, and they would greatly appreciate it. The Sam Davis home, the Wine on the Veranda is tomorrow night. So it's always a great event, and the weather's supposed to be pretty tomorrow evening too. So the Wine on the Veranda, the tickets are on sale at the Sam Davis home.
Great. Couple of items. Our Smyrna Kids Safety Day is Saturday, May the 5th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Smyrna Outdoor Adventure Center. The Smyrna Kids Safety Day is a day of fun and features important safety education for kids of all ages. There'll be activities which will include bike obstacle courses, safe animal encounters, rock wall climbing, arts and crafts, dangerous driving simulations, hunting safety, seatbelt safety, pool safety, fire safety, gun safety, wellness education, and much more. And kids are encouraged to bring their bikes to ride for the safety bike course. And this is put on through the town and Stonecrest Medical Center, and our staff really does a lot of work in preparing for this, and we always appreciate it, and it's always well attended. The next is our 6th annual United Way Golf Scramble. Jeff talked a little bit about this. It's Friday, May the 11th from 10:30 to 5:30. The town of Smyrna will be hosting the Golf Scramble to benefit the United Way of Rutherford and Cannon counties. Last year's event raised over $30,000 for our local United Way. We expect this year's event to be another record-breaking outing, and for a donation of $300, you get one foursome team for the event, lunch, and door prizes, and I'm assuming we're still taking teams? Yes, okay. And for a small additional donation, you can add red tees or mulligans to be used during the tournament. How many of those can we get?
All we need.
There we go. Okay, I told you we'd win. There will be 2 flights with payouts for 1st through 3rd in each, and registration ends May the 4th. And you can go to our town website to register. And the Smyrna Town Center Mother's Day Buffet will be Sunday, May the 13th from 11 to 2, $19.95 for adults. Children 6 to 12 are half price, and children 5 and under are free. I will tell you, you will not find a better lunch anywhere. And guys, that means you don't have to cook or do dishes. All you have to do is show up and pay your money. So you can't beat that. Also want to remind people that the senior citizens are having their open house on May the 1st from 11 to 2. And one day this week, and I'm sorry I can't remember what day, was the courthouse, the new courthouse in Murfreesboro ribbon cutting. If you have not had a chance to go by the facility, I highly recommend it. There is a mural that they have done that looks like the courthouse, but it is done out of individual tiny, Todd, what would you say, 1-inch pictures? And they're done so it gives the effect when you stand back that it's the old courthouse, but when you get up on it close, it's individual people from the county and of individual scenes. It is really a sight to behold. And how tall would you say? I mean, the mural. 2 stories tall, so it is huge. So it is really nice. But highly recommend you get by to see it. It is something you will be proud of. And last thing is June the 9th will be the dedication of the Jeff Coos Memorial. Time is to be determined at this point. We're still working on something that might affect the time, but mark your calendars for June 9th. I will tell you, we are having calls from all over the country. We had a group of individuals from Virginia today that are flying in for the event. One of them had flown with Jeff, and so they're coming in. We've had people from California and Washington State, so I expect we will have quite a few that day. So make sure and mark your calendars for June the 9th. Also, got a little write-up in Fly Past. And they came by and knew what we were doing and came by and actually took a picture of the plane and talk a little bit about the memorial and talk about the Hornet being the centerpiece of the Blue Angels Memorial. So that was pretty exciting to see. So anything else? Nothing else? Then we are adjourned.
Oh.